welcome to another podcast on one of the important topics that we cover on this platform, which is Indic religions. It is about not uh, the Vedanta side of the religion, but the practical side of what we call Hinduism. So here we have an influential guest, a prominent one, my favorite, Dr. Karanam Aravinda Rao garu. He retired as a Director General of Police. He's an IPS officer, retired as Director General of Police of the combined Andhra Pradesh state of India. So after retirement, he embarked on a very intensive study of, or actually teaching of Vedanta, of some of the foundational principles of Hinduism, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita. He has written over 20 books. Today's topic is on one of his latest books. He titled it Indic Religions Challenges for Survival. This was published in November 2023. Indic Religions Challenges for Survival. So I'll put out the link in the description below, so where you can find the book. So welcome Aravind Rao garu for this podcast. We look forward to having a wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Rajeev ji, for the introduction given about me. Thank you. We can start.
Yeah, so here first of all, I wanted to lay out the contents of the book. You'll find it very interesting. The readers will find it very interesting. So he covers, I'll put a screenshot of the contents of the book. Let me read them out to you. Of course, with the introduction, following that, we have 3 civilizations, 3 stories. Religion, a tool for imperialism. Indian nationalism. Encounters between Indic and Abrahamic religions. Developments in India after independence. Weapons against Hinduism. Why Indic religions be preserved. The role of traditional religious heads. The role of Hindu activists, the role of Brahmins, the role of intellectuals and media, the role of political parties and government, the role of judiciary, civilizational wars, and the future of Indic religions. Let me start off from the last chapter that you covered, Aravind Rao garu. So you talk about the civilizational wars, right? So India is going through what we call a civilizational awakening now. At least for the last maybe half a decade or so, a decade to half a decade, we are starting to see what we call being unapologetic towards many areas that were taken granted for a long time. So what is this civilizational war that you talk about in this book?
Thank you, Rajeev ji. The civilizational war, I just called it civilizational war. Right now, it doesn't look like a war because many people are not aware of it. And if we say that there is a civilizational war, people will laugh at us and people will say that you are doing some conspiracy theory. You are advocating a conspiracy theory. So that is the fate of the people who want to write about any sort of civilizational war. But then, if we see globally, in fact, in my book, initially I explained what is happening at a global level. At the global level, we are seeing that the 2 Abrahamic religions, that is particularly the 2 Abrahamic religions are this Islam and Christianity, they are fighting with each other. In addition, there is a third party also, that is communism, and that is headed by China, mostly headed by China. Russia, it may be having a small role, but China seems to be playing a major role. So these 3 people, they are trying to dominate. Each one is trying to dominate the whole world. It's not as though communism alone is trying to dominate. Islam also wants to dominate the whole world. Christianity alone wants to dominate the whole world. So these 3 forces are trying to dominate. So when that is so, we have got say about 1,000 years of experience in getting beaten by various people. For the last 1,000 years, we had the invasions on India. And we were getting beaten by one particular religion, Abrahamic religion. And in the last 300 years, again, another religion also came. And then somehow, say we also got what is called political independence about 77 years ago. But still, the aggressions are still going on. The aggressions are still going on. Because the theology of these two religions is that they have to dominate the whole world. In fact, if we see the history, for that we have to see the history of the atrocities committed by Christianity in several places all over the world, and also history of Islam, what atrocities they committed all over the world, and particularly we have got great experience in that regard. So all these things we have to see. And after independence also, though at that physical level it was not there, but these aggressions at a cultural level was there. Aggressions at a cultural level, why did it happen? That is because probably the leaders we had immediately after independence, they were not much bothered about Indian civilization. The people who were at the helm of affairs, they were not bothered about preserving the Indian civilization or reviving the Indian civilization. So this is how it went on. And the same policy which the colonial masters continued, the colonial masters were adopting, the same policy continued. And the Indic religions, they were continuously looked down upon. And the other two religions, the Abrahamic religions, were given a lot of importance in India also. So even after independence, they were a minority in terms of number at the level of Indian if you take India as a country, but at the global level they are the majority. At the global level they are a majority, but in India numerically they are a minority, and they were actually dictating terms to the majority. So this is what it went on. And many people, they are not even aware about the the theology of Islam, the theology of Christianity, that their objective to dominate the whole world. And they are also using religion. They are using religion as a sort of tool for imperialism. So that is how I started my book. So this war doesn't appear because it goes on very, very slowly. It goes on very, very slowly and so imperceptibly. So we don't recognize that there is a war. Slowly, our culture is being denigrated. So that is how I went on in this book. So that civilizational war I wanted to stress for two
So,
reasons. That is because I worked as a in the police department and observed, or rather, we were also examining the threats to national security and all that. This threat to national security emanates not only by physical aggressions and all that, but if the culture deteriorates, if the Indian civilization deteriorates, then that is the breaking point. So, what I have established in this book is that the preservation of Indic religions is very essential for preserving the national integrity. So, that is my basic thesis. And also, it is very essential to prevent, in fact, maybe genocide also, because when the civilization gets weakened, then when the two Abrahamic religions become very, very strong, and their policy is to physically eliminate also, so that can lead to some genocide of particular sections of people. So this is what is the problem. And it was my intention to alert in the sense, already many people have alerted, people like Rajeev Malhotra, etc. And I have continued adding some more additional points, particularly about the essential strength of the Indic religions. So that is what is my intention in writing this book.
yeah, I was going to ask what made you write this book, but you already answered that question. So let me go back to the basics of it. So when we talk about a civilizational war, so it mean that these forces, the three forces that we talk about, two religions, one is a political, I don't know what to call it, the communism. Two are religions, one is communism. So these forces, ideology, okay. So if you look at Christianity and Islam, their goal is to convert everybody to one of theirs, right? So that is their main idea behind it. So what is the threat? What happens if our civilization, take the example of the other Asian countries like Japan or China, you don't see their indigenous culture anymore. So if you look at I was watching some of the videos of the Japanese people in their populations, everybody is westernized. Everybody is Americanized, in fact. And they have these Americanized names. They have some Chinese name. They also have like a Chris or a John or a, so they have these Americanized names. And I have one of my colleagues, doctor colleague, who is actually Chinese, who came to America when he was very young. His name is Chris Wong. He's a Christian, Chris Wong, right? But they practice Buddhism at home. So would we become somebody like them where our identity itself is a threat at one level? Second is our civilizational values, the dharmic values that we carried for thousands of years. In fact, India is the only country, if I'm right, is the only country that preserved their identity for thousands of years. No other religion, no other country in the world is preserved that. So when you talk about threat to what? Threat to identity, threat to national security. So I would like you to explain on the threat, and then we'll go into the details of some of the threats, how to identify the threats and what we can do about it. So tell us,
Yeah.
please tell us about
Yeah, it's a
what
very,
happened.
very important and yeah, very to give a rather elaborate answer. So the threat is in this way. That is, when Christianity came to India in, say, maybe about 16th century, early 15th century, 16th century, or I'll go to Islam first. When Islam came, the first thing they did was to eliminate in the battlefield all these the Kshatriyas were eliminated, and when they came to cities, their main target were the Brahmins. And the same thing happened. We need not repeat all those things, repeat the details. When Christians came also, for example, a man like Francis Xavier, when he came to Goa, and that Goan Inquisition started. He realized that the Brahmins were people who were actually controlling, or rather influencing the population. They had a great influence on. Brahmins, but he failed to convert them because Brahmins, the Indic civilizations depend all these Indic religions, they do depend on a philosophical base. The basic difference between the Western religions and the Indic religions is that the Western religions are based on just a belief. They were just started by a particular person at a particular point of time in history. And then that particular person says, yes, I had some direct communication from God, and you have to believe in that. And to his good luck, so he has succeeded in influencing some people. And to the good luck of Prophet Muhammad, he also had an army, and then he very happily went about, and then in his own lifetime, he established an empire. Of course, unfortunately, Christ probably was not aggressive, and then he only wanted to say just, in fact, it is very, very doubtful whether Christ really wanted that religion to be propagated. It's very doubtful if we read, say, the Bible. It is very doubtful whether Christ religion really wanted that his religion has to be sort of say this. It has to go and convert all the people in the world. That sort of thing
In fact,
we
during
doubt.
his
But
time,
in
there was
Islam,
no, yeah,
yeah,
he
in
did not.
Islam it is. Yeah, in
In
Islam
fact,
it is
during
very
the
much
time
there.
of,
In
yeah,
Islam, yeah, in Islam it is very much there, and their theology also says that the whole world belongs to Islam, and all other non-believers, they are just squatters on earth. So this detail I got it from one book by an American professor, Mr. Bill Warner. There is an American professor who has written extensively on Islam, and he quotes from their own from the Islamic text. So this is the picture, and on both religions, they identified these Brahmins as a sect. And then they have been targeting, and then their call, in fact, they have been giving repeated calls for genocide of Brahmins. And recently, in recent history, also even after independence, also the British, they of course they did not do directly. They were so intelligent that they did not do directly. The Islam, of course, they were directly involved in elimination of Kashmiri Pandits and whatnot, even after independence. But then the British did it very, very very intelligently in the form of creation of a local party wherever the British directly ruled. They created certain parties, for example, the Justice Party, both in Andhra Pradesh and also in Telangana. At that time, Andhra Pradesh was not there. It was it was a Madras state, in which a large part of Andhra, the present day Andhra Pradesh, was also there. So they created a party, It is basically an anti-Brahmin party, and then very ferociously anti-Brahmin party. And they also created narrative. The basic, I mean, the way genocide starts is by creating a narrative. If we see the Jewish Holocaust also, everything started by building up narrative against them that they were the responsible for all the ills of the society. They were the atrocious people. They were the oppressors, and all other people were oppressed and whatnot. So that sort of literature was built up. That sort of narrative was built up by the British. So because of that, they succeeded in Sri Lanka. In fact, Sri Lanka, that Arya Dravida template, it was created by the British only. Before that, prior to the arrival of the British, they were living together, happily living together. They had no problem. But when the British came, they created this Arya Dravida problem. The same Arya Dravida problem they created in India also, southern India, where they ruled directly, and then they found that. The Tamil people, they were also quite receptive to that argument because physiologically they also looked slightly different from darker than the North Indians, and then the British found it very very easy to put the idea of this Arya Dravida theory on them, and they were successful in creating this hatred for Brahmins. And then Brahmins, even today, most of the Brahmins from Tamil Nadu, they have run away. So that is one section of say Hindu society that is a direct target. But their objective is by eliminating that one particular section, they will be able to control all of the people. They will be able to control all of the people because it will be directionless. It will be directionless. Even today, the Brahmins are the community who are preserving the civilization, who are preserving our texts and whatnot. One more difference which I have to say, one difference which I have to mention is, as I was saying, the Abrahamic religions are based on belief system, I said. What about Indic religions? Indic religions, they are based on philosophical reasoning. If we see our own texts, there is a debate. There is a debate about what is the nature of God. Who am I? How am I able to see the world? And what is my relationship with what can be called the supreme reality? And that supreme reality, what we call God, is a personal God, somebody who is sitting in heaven. And our philosophy says it is not a personal God. It is something which is of the nature of pure consciousness. So if we see our philosophy, similarly, not only Hindu philosophy, even the Buddhists, they also debated on the same lines. The Jains debated on the same lines. The latest religions, of course, Sikhism, they took most of it is from Upanishadic, most of it is Upanishadic philosophy only. Sikhism, if we see, the entire Upanishadic philosophy is taken by the Sikhs, but unfortunately, they are now feeling alienated. That again is because of the British machinations. The British, they created all that Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee and various other things. And of course, they forgot their history, and then they forgot how their own ancestors were killed by the Islamic rulers. So that is how Islam went out. But then the Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, these are based on philosophical principles. We may be having so many traditions, for example, Vaishnava tradition, Shaiva tradition, various other traditions, but then all are influenced by the Upanishadic philosophy. So that is the reason why we are all together. If Upanishads were not to be there, then Vaishnavites and Shaivites would have been fighting. So Upanishadic philosophy, it united all these people. It brought about one unity, and it brought about the sense of tolerance. And India, as you initially remarked, this is the only country in the whole world, only civilization in the whole world where there is, say, this liberalism, acceptance of all traditions. You worship the supreme reality in whatever manner you want, in whatever shape you want. But then that is only up to a limited level. But then religion is something which is a tool to give, or rather to give some discipline to the human being and some eradicate some negative, qualities from his mind and make his mind free. He does not become a religious fundamentalist. Indic religions are so constructed that a person does not become a fundamentalist. So, in fact, in all our prayers, we see that Vishnu, Shiva, Ganesha, all the people are one and the same. They are all various forms of one supreme reality. So that is the basic difference between Indic religions and the Abrahamic religions. And our interest in preserving this is the only culture. This is the only culture which is giving a formula for world peace. We are not using say, the Christian God or the Islamic God. We never do that. In fact, we have no problem with them. They have a problem with our gods, but whereas we don't bother. We don't. We say, okay, you follow your own religion, I follow my religion. But then they say, no, 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 your God is a false God. We never say that any God is a false God. All things are accepted at a tentative level. But we say that you go beyond these names and forms, go beyond this, and then try to discover what is that ultimate reality. So that is our approach. So this is the basic difference. So the threat is to that particular unique philosophy. The threat is to that unique philosophy. And of course, we also have to admit that even many people in the West, they are also influenced by the Upanishadic philosophy. It is not as though this philosophy is going to disappear. These people may ruthlessly eliminate Hinduism in India, but then the philosophy will not go away. The philosophy is already digested in the Western people, and among the Western people also there is some awakening. There is some sort of acceptance that yes, there is something really great in that Indic religions. So, but threat is in that way. And once that Hinduism goes, India also disintegrates, and there can be this genocide because, in fact, Rajeev Malhotra writes in his books about how countries like Rwanda, where the people there were, they engaged in civil war. Suppose in India, the two Abrahamic religions, they become very powerful. They will be quarreling. They will be having wars between them. We are also seeing it in Kerala. There are clashes between Christians and say Muslims. So that can happen in the entire country. So that is the basic threat to integrity of the country, and also threat to a civilization which does not deserve to disappear from the face of the earth.
Yeah. So that is an elaborate and very detailed explanation. But from that, I would like to point out one thing that, we talk about all are one, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, and all those things, so isn't that the Abrahamic religions are taking up such statements and saying that all are one, so you can convert to our religion. And most of the Hindus still think that all religions are same, don't they? So because they're using such statements and saying that, in fact, Mahatma Gandhi and so on, we have seen them saying that in fact, Vedanta societies, they celebrate Christmas. They celebrate other religions too. There is no other religion in the world that celebrates other religions within their organizations. Isn't that right? So this idea of all religions are same actually caused more damage to Indian religions, according to my understanding. The point is, Hinduism does not fit into the template of these other religions, right? So the clerical hierarchy, one God sitting up in the heaven. It reminds me of one story that Alan Watts gave in one of his lectures. He quotes a story of an astronaut who goes up way farther off in the sky, and he returns back. And so people ask him out of curiosity, have you seen heaven? And he says, yes, I've seen heaven. Oh, what about God? And he says, yes, she's black. And they cannot accept that idea that a God should be a white man with a white old man with a beard sitting up in the sky. And then he dictates some commandments to a certain representative. This is the idea of a certain religion. This is the template. This template, if you superimpose on Indic religions, it does not fit in. So I think the problem is for the people living in India who grew up in these dharmic, not just Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, and other people, to understand their own religion better, so that they understand, and also not only our religion, to understand other Islamic religions or Islamic or Christian religions. So explain to us fundamental knowledge about Indic religion. So, what are the basic principles? You talk about primary text, secondary text. So, you already briefly mentioned about that earlier on. So, I would like you to focus on what makes this different from the so-called religions. In fact, I feel like Hinduism has many religions within it, like what we call matas, right? So, explain to us, if you may, what makes it different and why. Yeah.
Yes, as you rightly said, the statement that all religions are one and the same, it is generally made by the politicians. And it is also made by many of our religious leaders also. And probably they want to give an impression that yeah, we are open to everybody, we don't discriminate and all that. That is all okay. But then they are not talking about the essential, the core principles of our religion. So particularly when we are talking about our Hindu religion, Hinduism, for example, as you said, Hinduism talks at two levels. That is one at the common man's level, where it says you follow any religion. For example, not religion, you follow any tradition. You worship God in any form. For example, Bhagavad Gita says, Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha. There is a shloka, there is one verse in the Bhagavad Gita. It says, you worship deity in whatever form you want, and that supreme reality will answer in the same form. And it also goes on to say, Ye pyanya devata bhaktaha yajante shraddhayanvitaha. It is from the ninth chapter, it says, which is such a unique statement which you do not find in any other religion. Even if you worship any other god, I am not jealous. Ye pyanya devata bhakta. Even if you worship any other deity, I am not bothered. So that is that is the statement of Krishna as a spokesperson of that supreme reality which cannot speak. Krishna there in the Bhagavad Gita is a spokesperson of that supreme reality, and the supreme reality, it is impersonal in nature. So, because as a sort of avatar, as a sort of manifestation of that supreme reality, he is saying that you can worship in any form. So, from that is at a lower level. At a lower level, you worship Shiva, you worship Vishnu, you worship Allah, you worship Jehovah, you worship any other person. But at the higher level, you have to know, you have to go beyond this. You have to reject your religious identity. In fact, a person who is an enlightened person is one who goes beyond this religious identity, he goes beyond the social identity. In fact, the Upanishads say he goes beyond this varna, ashrama, religion, etc., etc. And then he is one with the God, one with the supreme reality. He is as free as that supreme reality, equal to all. He has no preference for somebody, no hatred for somebody. There are no likes and dislikes for God. For example, Christian God says, and also Islamic God says, yeah, people who don't believe in me, you go and kill them or convert them. Whereas here it is not like that. It's not like that. Even if you worship any other person, you are worshipping me only, although in a slightly different form. So this is the basic difference between Hinduism and the other religions. We talk at two levels. One at the philosophical level. At the philosophical level, there is only one reality. Whether you are in Australia or America or anywhere, Africa or anywhere, there is only one reality at the highest level. But the lower level, for the common man, somebody may be worshipping one form, another man may be worshipping in some other form. So when our people say, our Swamijis also, when they say, yeah, all religions are equal, etc., they are only telling the half truth. And this half truth has made a lot of damage, as you rightly said. It has caused a lot of damage to Hindu society because many educated people started believing, yes, all religions are the same. Okay, why should we say bother about conversion to Christianity or conversion to Islam? But then they fail to realize that their theology is to eliminate. Their theology is to eliminate. Because if the other two religions they become powerful, they will not allow this philosophy to exist. Then there will be nobody to say, hey, all religions are equal. These Swamijis or our political leaders, they will be last batch of people who will be saying all religions are equal. But if at all these Abrahamic religions become powerful, then that is the end of it. And then they will, no other religion will say, the Abrahamic religions will never say all religions are equal. It is only we who are saying. It has caused a great mistake. So that is what it is.
So, so another thing that we see that there is only one way pathway. Like the conversion happens only from one direction. It does not have. So Hinduism does not have a pathway to include others outside of Hinduism to be part of them, right? So, for example, I live in America. So, somebody comes to me and says, I'm deeply influenced by Vedanta or Vaishnavism or what have you, ISKCON or what have you, and I would like to get converted to Hinduism. Tell me the pathway to get converted to become a Hindu. Then I'm at a loss. I don't know. I can't send them to one place or a certain temple or where they will actually, there is no path laid out. So, what is your understanding or experience when you talk to these matadikaris or acharyas and people like that who are the heads of the Hindu religious societies? So, what is your understanding? So, is there a
This
pathway that is going to come in the future? Are they working towards it, or did they close it off?
There is no question of closing or anything. The same question which you raised, it was put to Kanchi Paramacharya. You know that Kanchi
Yeah,
Paramacharya was a very great soul. So that
Kanchi.
Swamiji, one Westerner, he asked, I want to get converted. Then the Swamiji said, no, you need not get converted. You follow your own religion and be equal to all other religions. Then you are in Hinduism only. You follow your own, you follow Christ and then you worship Christ, but then don't hate other people and also try to know what you are. That also he said. Kanchi Paramacharya, he said, you follow your own religion and also try to go beyond religion and try to investigate what you are, what is your real nature. And your real nature is that you are not different from that supreme reality. And there is such a great, grand statement. This is the only, say, civilization which says that what we call all the whole Jagat or Krishna, the whole creation is only a manifestation. It is only an appearance in that Brahman or in that reality. And you and I, we are not different from that reality. So our civilization does not say you are a servant of God, you have to obey the order of the God. That is at a lower level. At a lower level, we say, okay, Rama is there, Krishna is there, you follow them, Shiva is there, you follow. All that is there. But at the higher level, you are that supreme reality. But for giving a sort of guidance to all other people, even the enlightened people, they also they go to temples, they also perform prayers, etc. That is basically to guide ordinary people, so that if the enlightened people, they just don't bother about gods, they don't bother about temples, the religion will not be there and religious practices will not be there. And in all our religious practices also, our people have included, our sages have included philosophical passages. So when you go to a temple and perform a puja, there you find what is called Purusha Sukta. Purusha Sukta is a sort of a meditation, a oneness meditation, we can call it. A oneness meditation visualizing the whole universe as one organic being. So that is our approach. Seeing unity in diversity is our approach. Avibhaktam vibhakteshu. That Tadjnanam Vidhi Satvikam, Krishna says in the Gita. In so many forms which are appearing to be diverse, you have to see oneness. So that is the right perspective. That is the right knowledge, he says. So in all these different forms, we want to see oneness, and Vishwarupa is that cosmic form, is that. So in that Vishwarupa Sandarsana Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, or whether it is Purusha Suktam, that is that description of one, the whole universal personality. So that is an exercise in meditation. It is actually a meditation to see all the beings of all the living beings as one with that supreme being. So that oneness meditation is, which is very, very unique in the Indian literature, which is not there in any other religion. So these two levels, unless our Swamijis and teachers, they talk about two levels, it will not become complete. If they are saying only half truths, then they are doing some damage. I agree with you on that
Yeah.
point.
So the problem, Arvindra, where what arises is, when I went to medical school in India in a government college. So you will see all these people who are lower middle class, who are poor people who come there to the government hospitals. You have these priests, Christian priests, providing them clothes and bread and free medicines and so on and so forth, and anointing them with their waters and so on. And by the time they come out of the hospital, they were half converted into other Christianity. So you see, when we talk about God is one and all that, at the Paramarthika level, it makes sense. But as long as we don't, I feel that I mean, I know I'm the heads of the mathas, and they are the ones who has to make the rules, probably amend the rules or whatever. But as long as we don't have a pathway to include others, I don't think I think we'll continue to bleed at some level, as we go along. So I know you explained about the paramarthika level, the philosophical aspects of it, but people who are suffering, don't have money, who have diseases, who lost a child, whose parent is sick, who don't have resources, they go to these churches and they have this community. They are like, okay, include in a, you are part of us. We don't have a hierarchy like you have in Hinduism, so you are one of us. There is no caste or caste
Yeah,
system. So
I'll explain. I'll explain. Yeah, all that is not out of missionary. All that is not out of love. It is a missionary activity. You see, they are getting billions and billions of dollars to even a person like that lady from Calcutta. She was also like that, and she was getting a
Mother
lot of
Teresa.
money. Not only Saint Teresa, Mother Teresa. And similarly, we are aware of so many NGOs who are getting thousands and not thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars every year to India for this conversion work. And our Swamijis, they can't do the same. They can't compete with that. They just cannot compete. So the Christian, the Islam, I mean, the British people, they ruled us, and then they established that huge structure of missionary schools and hospitals and whatnot. And we are impressed by that. We are impressed by their service, and then there are so many other facilities also. Suppose you can get converted, and their schools, you get free admission in the schools. So all these things, it is happening because of money, because the Western religions, particularly the Christianity, they are operating at three levels. One is the intellectuals who study our texts and try to distort our texts and then try to belittle our texts and then denigrate the text and all that. That is one level. And also try to see the social fault lines, and then where exactly you can capture whom you can provoke. So the social fault lines they study. The second is our missionaries. Missionaries they go about, and then they target, and they to targeted groups, and then they try to give all this money. And then missionaries, they are getting money. It is not as though they are giving their own money. They are getting money from outside, and then they are distributing that money. And in the process, they are also becoming rich. There are many such cases, and they do keep quarreling. And then there are so many instances where they keep fighting and quarreling for that money. And the third is the government and NGOs. There are so many NGOs which the Western governments have been promoting in India. And there are thousands of NGOs almost in every corner of India. There are thousands, there are so many NGOs. So all these thousands of NGOs are working, missionaries are working, and intellectuals are working to create false narratives. So these three levels, when they are hitting, our problem is we also have some problem. It's not as though we have to brush off our problem. Unfortunately, Swamijis, in fact, in my book, I have, I have some very harsh words for the Swamijis, and some of these religious heads who saw this, they were very unhappy, and they were very unhappy with my criticism, because these people also, they don't go out and then say, yes, we are all one. You see, philosophy is very high, but then the society is totally different. And you have to tell the society, yes, we are all members of the same society. It is not as though the basic allegation of the Western society is that the most important weapon in the hands of Christianity is that, oh, Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is another name for Hinduism. Sanatana Dharma is equal to caste. So whereas in reality, there is no mention of any caste. There is only a description of four types of people, depending on their psychological makeup. So that is what is called Varna. There are four Varnas. Some people who are interested in knowledge, truthfulness, they are interested in, say, pursuit of knowledge, and also they are straightforward in nature and also contented. They don't have, absolutely contented with what they have. So that is one category. People who are restive, who are aggressive, who want to achieve things, they are also another category. And then those who are slightly dullards and then who just follow instructions and then do whatever somebody says you go and kill, they go and kill. Fundamentalists, let us say. So these three qualities which are there in nature, they have been described. Only that. So only four varnas have been mentioned. There is no such thing as caste in Indian society. Whereas caste is a social, so it is something which has evolved from the society. Because today, like we need clothes today, some 10,000 years ago also people needed clothes. So nobody came, no God came and said, okay, you prepare clothes. Or no, Manusmriti, we blame Manusmriti. Manu is a lawgiver. So we blame Manu. Yeah, Manu created caste. He did not create any caste. So nobody came and said, God did not say, Manu did not say, no Brahmin said, you become a sort of weaver, you become a goldsmith, or you become something else, you become an ironsmith, you become somebody else. So like that, nobody said. It has, the caste evolved because of social needs. And when the British came, they created this caste, and they did this caste census in 1901. When they did this 19 caste census for the first time in 1901, what we call scheduled caste today, they also claimed superiority. They also claimed equal status with Brahmins also. They said, yeah, in what way are we inferior to Brahmins? We call us Matanga Brahmins. They said all these things. If we see at that time what happened in society, so all of the people, they also said, yeah, they also had their own social status. It is not as though the Brahmins were sitting at the apex and then they were controlling all of the people. How can some 3-4% of the people suppress, say, 96-97% of the people? It is impossible and it is absurd to admit, to say like that. So our problem is our Swamijis have to say, caste has nothing to do with Hinduism. Let all Hindus be one. So if our Swamijis come out and say, then there will be much positive impact. But unfortunately, the Swamijis, they are so, withdrawn. It is not as though they want this caste to be there, but they are so withdrawn. They are into their philosophical speculation. For example, if you go to some important mutts, they're basically in philosophical speculations. They'll be studying Upanishads, they'll be studying Gita, they'll be studying various Shastras and promote various Shastras. They're basically centers where the Shastras are preserved. So that is what is happening, but they don't have any sort of social interface. They are not coming out. They don't want to be, want to quote any controversy, let us say.
Or do they
They
feel
don't.
that it is not their duty to, or I mean, it may very well be so. They feel that it is their duty to only preserve the Shastras and
It is unfortunately
literature
so.
and
It is
so on. Is
unfortunate.
that what
Yeah,
they
it is
feel like? Is
unfortunately
that,
so.
yeah.
It is unfortunately so. It is unfortunately they feel that it is not their duty. No, in fact, you see, when after independence, for example, the SC/ST Act came. That is prevention of what is that? Untouchability Act, etc. They came. And there was no protest from any Brahmin. There was no protest from any Brahmin. There was no protest from any Swamiji. Even today, even now, if the government says, yes, we are de-recognizing all castes, we are all one, we are all one Hindu society, all Muslims are one, all Christians are one, all Hindus are one. Suppose we say we are de-recognizing caste, no Swami will protest. Nobody will protest, I can guarantee. But unfortunately, they are not coming forward. They think that it is not there. Why should we take the either credit or blame? Their problem is some other Swamiji may say, "Oh, this man has become a very liberal, etc." Their fear, they have got their own fears. So, though caste is something which is not at all there in religion, that is not being told by all the people. And for that, exclusively, I have devoted one chapter where I discussed caste in my book and exclusively one more chapter to distinguish between the Abrahamic religions and the Indic religions. So in that my book I have explained, and I also have blamed our Swamijis for their silence. Their silence is doing a lot of harm to Hindu society. I have mentioned.
Mm. So
Probably one thing which I visualize is, for example, there is an organization called Vishwa Hindu Parishad, and there are some Swamijis and associated with that. In fact, those Swamijis, they can take up leadership of the Hindu society, because Hindu society is right now leaderless. So whoever gives proper direction, yes, this is what we have to do. People are willing to follow, but unfortunately, they are also not taking up leadership. They are not taking leadership. It is our unfortunate situation.
yeah. Do you see more splitting going to happen with the caste census that they are talking about? I mean, if not now, maybe 10 years from now, when another government comes up and they might do, because what is happening right now, the current government is trying to bring all the Hindus together, just like the Islam and others. But once this government goes away, another government comes in, maybe whenever that comes in, so they might start doing the caste census again and then start splitting the Hindu society. And we can see this Lingayat movement going on in Karnataka. There is a threat that they might become a separate religion, like just like Sikhs became. So talk. By the way, talk about Sikhism. You mentioned a lot about Sikhism in the book. In the
Yeah,
post-India.
I'll tell about Sikhism. Before that, I will answer your first point, that is about the caste division.
Yeah.
You see, when this British, they did caste census in 2000, in 1901, they did not merely make division. They created a hierarchy. Yeah, you are high, you are low, you are high, you are low. That created all tension. Till that time, in all villages, there was no tension at all. So when the British came and then they said, "Oh, this is a higher caste, this is a lower caste, etc., etc.," that
They
created
actually
caste
use the words higher and lower in higher
higher
and
and
lower.
lower. So that is actually is used by the later day communists. Later day communists, particularly, for example, you have heard the name called cultural Marxism. In that cultural Marxism, the difference between classical Marxism and cultural Marxism is that classical Marxism only talked about the social, economic groups. This is the proletariat, bourgeois, etc. In those terms. But then this cultural Marxism, they talked in terms of cultural hegemony. Why? Because they found that in spite of, this communist ideology, and then in spite of achieving some revolutions in some countries, they could not achieve revolutions in all countries. All over the world, they could not achieve. And then they thought, why we failed? And then the new brand of communists, they came, they were called cultural Marxists, and then they said, yeah, there is what is called a social hegemony. So they use that word, social cultural hegemony, and then one particular group of society is looking down on another group. So this
Is
is
it like
where
social injustice?
they created one theory called critical race theory in America. And the same theory they applied a slightly modified way. They called it critical caste theory in India. And they also said, yeah, the Brahmins is at a higher level, and the other people they are at a middle level or lower level. The Brahmins are looking down on everybody. So this sort of cultural Marxism was introduced. And now, as you rightly said, one political party, one important national party, it is saying, yeah, if we come to power, we will again do caste census. What is the objective? It is not our agenda. It is the agenda of Western society. It is the agenda of the church. It is the agenda of Christianity. So that political party, knowingly or unknowingly, it is following the agenda of, an Abrahamic religion. It is not, and in fact,
But
nobody
it's
is asking for
increasing
caste.
too,
Caste
right? That
is,
is
and
reducing.
now actually because of urbanization, caste is something which is disappearing. At that time, these people again want to create some caste, and then they again create a hierarchy, and then again it facilitate mass conversions into other religions. When this thing is made, classification is made, then there is a possibility of mass conversions to other religions. So that is exactly what they want to achieve, either unknowingly or they are part of the game. They want to dismember India. They want to break India. If we are happy, then it is fine. Probably that is their idea. So this cultural Marxism is a new idea which they came. And the second point you asked about Sikhism. Sikhism is again, it is, as I said, their philosophy is, if we see that Guru Granth Sahib, the very first opening word, it starts with Maya. The whole world is only an expression in this, an appearance, is an appearance. in that Maya or that the power of the supreme reality, the power of that consciousness to manifest as this universe. So from the in that language it opens. And then if we see the Sikh Moola Mantra also, Moola Mantra is again, it is all the words are derived from our own Upanishads. Because Ek Omkar, Satanam, Karata, Purak, Nirbhay, Nirvair, Akal, Murat, Ayoni, Saivang, it says. Ek Omkar, starting with Omkar only, there is only one Omkar. Satanam, Sat means that is the only thing which is existing. Sat means that which has which exists in past, present, and future. Always it has no, it is something which is eternal. Karata Purak, but at the same time it is a Karta. It is appearing as a Karta, and it is also appearing as a Purusha. Purusha is something which is appearing as this all the living beings. Then, like that, there is a description of what that supreme reality is. Nirbhaya, Nirvaya, Akala, Murat, it is something which is beyond time. Then, Saivang is something which is Swayambhu. Swayambhu is called Saivang in Punjabi. So, the Punjabi language and Punjabi, say words, if we see, they are all from the Sanskrit only. And then the name of Rama Krishna is mentioned maybe 2000 times. Some scholar has pointed out the names of Rama, Krishna, etc. They are mentioned more than 2000 times in Guru Granth Sahib. And Guru Granth Sahib is a compilation of of writings of various people. So that is how that thing is. But unfortunately, and also the Indian scholars, not Indian scholars, the Hindus, particularly the Brahmins, they were teaching philosophy. In fact, the the Sikh scholars, they were also studying Upanishads. They were studying Bhagavad Gita. They were studying Ramayana, Mahabharata. And then the Brahmin scholars called Mahants, they were going and then they were there present in this their Sikh temples, and then they were teaching these Sikhs. But the British found that they wanted to say split these two people. They created what is called a Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee, and then they said, "Oh yeah, you have your own independence." So from that time, the role of Mahants came down. And then they were sent away. And then they gradually, over a period, they also forgot their own history, how they were their own leaders like Guru Gobind Singh and all such people. They were all killed by the Islamic invaders. They forgot. And it so happened that at that time, and also when Punjab got divided, part of Punjab went into Pakistan and part of it is in India. And in India only they want Khalistan. They don't want Khalistan in Kashmir, in Pakistan. So when all these Khalistanis present now in Canada
Tell us
anywhere,
about the Khalistan very briefly for those of us who are not familiar with it.
that Khalistan is something we want to be independent. We want to be an independent nation. So that is something which is
Like they
encouraged
want to
by.
carve out a part of
They want to
Punjab
carve, yeah,
into a separate, like a
no,
Pakistan. They want a
the
Khalistan.
Punjab, whatever Punjab is there in India, they want to carve out and then they want to get separated from India. So that movement started. Even during Indira Gandhi's time, and we know that that led to the death of Indira Gandhi.
Right.
So then, in fact, Bindranwala and other people, they were all encouraged by Pakistan only. And we have to see that Pakistani intelligence was so, effective. They were so effective, and our intelligence was so poor, probably. And in fact, we have to admit that we could not assimilate. We could not assimilate these Punjabis. And then we alienated them. And one after the other, various incidents happened after Indira Gandhi's murder. Then lot many Sikhs were killed, and then there was no great justice also done in that case. So the Sikhs got further alienated. So they have been demanding a Khalistan for this Indian portion of Punjab. They don't talk about the Pakistani portion of Punjab. Unfortunately, the same Pakistanis, they are controlling these Khalistanis. They are financing the Khalistanis, and then they are together happily mixed up in America, in Canada, and in all the UK and all these places. So the Khalistanis, they feel that they are closer to Islam now. It is such a travesty of truth, we can way to say.
And what is Canada doing in all this? Where does Canada come into it? What is the interest of Canada in creating?
Yeah, probably because of the large influx of large migration, rather instead of my influx saying influx, we can say large migration of Sardarjis or Sikhs into Canada, and they form an influential community there, very influential community, and there are many representatives, the members of parliament and members of this in that Canadian
So
government.
when you go to Canada and see the Sikh community, like Pakistani Sikhs and Indian Sikhs, do they form in that
Yeah, they
committee?
coexist. Yeah, they happily coexist. They can happily coexist, and then they feel one and the same. And but at the same time, they want independence from India. They don't talk about Pakistan. And Pakistan probably it is buying peace with them by financing them by supporting Khalistani cause. And unfortunately, in my opinion, Canadian government they are like our own populist governments who want to appease minorities. They are just in the process of appeasing the Sardarjis. I don't think Canada, as it is, has any interest in causing trouble in India. But then they are helpless. They seem to be helpless. So unfortunately, there is a liberal government there, and that always these liberal governments they are populist, and then they want to appease the minorities. That is what happened in UK also. In UK also, when the when the Labour Party was there earlier, prior to this, the present Tory government is there. Prior to that, when Labour government was there, in fact, they wanted to bring a caste law in UK. Where is the need for
For
caste
Indian,
law in UK? Who is
for in,
making any caste discrimination in UK? So even
for
here, some of
caste law
the
for whom? For Indians living in UK?
Indian
Caste law.
living in UK, yeah, Indians living in UK. India, well, you see, if you are living in UK, and then suppose your neighbor is from a particular community, and you belong to a particular community, he can give a complaint against you, and then you can be arrested for caste discrimination. So that is what happened in America also. In America also, some states they wanted to bring caste laws. Luckily, they have not come through. But in the UK, they wanted to bring in some caste law during that Labour period. They also discussed this issue of caste in British Parliament. So that is the unfortunate aspect. So
So
they are all that is all because of populism. Because there again, Sikhs are influential in UK. The Muslim Islamists they are influential in UK. So they are actually going by the dictates of these two forces. So that is
so
what it is.
this became a messy situation with the Sikhism when it started as a what you call in your book
That is what is the sword arm of Hinduism. I
sword
told
arm
said
of
him.
Hinduism. Yeah.
Actually the arm of Hinduism because the eldest son from every family went. Every family, whether it is a Brahmin, Vaishya, Shudra, whatever, and that is one religion where it actually followed what is told in the Upanishads. That is, Upanishads, they don't talk about any discrimination or anything. In society, these four varnas have come. But in the Upanishads, they say you go beyond varna also. Ati varnashtami, it says, you go beyond varna to realize oneness. So the Sikhism implemented it. They took people from all varnas, from all castes. Of course, caste has nothing to do with Hinduism, I should repeat. So they took people from all varnas and castes. That was the first casteless society. And it was such a great society. Unfortunately, they forgot their history and then they feel that they have nothing to do with Hinduism.
Is Buddhism something like that where there is no
Yeah,
uh,
Buddhism again, because it is more than at that time, uh, some other reasons were there. Buddhism again, because at that time there was a lot of ritualism in Hinduism. And
yes.
Buddhism, in my opinion, they were against too much of ritualism. It is not against, they were not against God. The Buddha never talked
Right. They
about
have
God.
their own ritualism, right? In Buddhist, you go
Yeah,
there, they have their own
that is
rituals and
later.
temples and
Later
yeah.
time, later time. But then initially they were against, they were critical of this too much of ritualism, and that is how we see that Buddhism. And again, Buddhism also there is a lot of philosophy, Buddhist logic. They develop great texts of logic, and then they also have this philosophical reasoning. What we call Brahman, they call it Shunya. So,
Hmm.
there is a lot of speculation. But otherwise, ethics, whether it is for Hindus or Buddhists or Jains, ethics are common. Ethics
Yeah.
are common. Ahimsa and all these concepts are common. Only at a philosophical level. Some variation at the philosophical level. They are also religions based on.
Yeah. So it's interesting, when in America here, at least at a local level, when we say Eastern religions, religions from the East, they know more about Buddhism than any other religion, including Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism. They don't know much about it, but much about anything else. But Buddhism, everybody knows, either because of Zen meditation and that kind of popularity, or either because of the Dalai Lama's influence in the West and so on. So Buddhists or some of the celebrities like Richard Gere and them convert into Buddhism, and I feel that because there is no I keep coming back to it, because people convert to Buddhism. If I want to become a Buddhist, there is a pathway to convert to Buddhism, and they say I am a Buddhist now. But Hinduism, there is no such thing. So I feel that is probably one of the main reasons I keep coming back to it. There is no answer to my mind. Maybe somebody will come with an answer for that. So it's Sikhism. I don't know if there is a conversion, but Buddhism, there is definitely one. Jainism, because of Indic religion, your book is on Indic religions. I keep coming back to the main dharmic religions, what we call. So, is there such a thing? You can become a Sikh, you can convert to Buddhism, I know, Sikh or Jain and so on.
Sikhism, there are many people who got converted to Sikhism. In fact, in Andhra Pradesh, where I live, there are many people, particularly from some communities, from some ST communities, particularly what we call Lambada community. Many people got converted to Sikhism. So there is conversion to Sikhism. Because in fact, Sikhism actually originated with people who came from Hinduism only, isn't it? So from Hindu society, many people got converted to Sikhism. Even today it goes on. But Jainism, I am not sure. Jainism, whether there is conversion or not. See, Hinduism, the Swamijis have to take a decision if you want to become a Hindu. But as I said, Kanchi Paramacharya said, you can be a good Christian and also a good Hindu.
That is
Try to know
good. I
yourself.
mean, philosophically,
Yeah,
that is good, right? So
philosophically. But
I
then,
can, yeah.
yeah, but then they don't, somehow they have never encouraged. They have never
Like I said,
encouraged
my
the
friend here, who is a Christian, but at home they have Buddhist rituals and Buddhistic
Yes,
practices and beliefs and everything.
yes,
But on paper,
yes,
they are Christian. They have
yes,
Christian name, they have Christian, their weddings are
yes.
Christian wedding, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, what Paramacharya said is great. At a philosophical level, it is great. I mean, we are not
Yeah,
arguing with, but at
yeah,
a
but
practical level,
unfortunately,
yeah.
our Swamijis, they are only at that philosophical level. They have to care more for the society, as you said.
Yeah.
So
So,
that is a real problem.
right.
And Buddhism, it also because many Buddhist scholars, in fact, they are actually heading the chair in various universities. Buddhism chair, it is headed by a Buddhist and not by an American. But then on Hinduism, the chair is headed by some American only and not by a Hindu Swami,
Who does
Hindu
not
monk.
speak Sanskrit?
So that is
Yeah.
unfortunate thing. Our people have not taken the liberty. Probably that is because after independence, 70 years of roughly 60 years of negligence. You see, the entire long period of immediately after independence, for a long period, our people were never bothered about reviving our civilization.
Yeah.
They were only bothered about pampering minorities. They were only bothered about creating vote banks. They were prepared and they were only worried about staying in power eternally. Because if you have an vote bank and if that vote bank is pampered and if they vote in a solid manner to you, you are perpetually in power. So that was their calculation. So unfortunately, they never bothered about reviving Hinduism, reviving our civilization or even writing our history in a proper way. They never bothered. And in fact, they entrusted the writing of history to communists. They, and
Yeah,
communists and
you talk
Islamists.
about the education minister in the
Communists
post
and
independence.
Islamists, they wrote our history immediately
Yeah,
after independence. For a long time, our education ministers at the central level were from Islam. They were Muslims. So they had their own agenda. They had their own agenda to promote Islam and then the soft power of Islam. So that is how it went on. And then Islam was projected as a great religion. And then even in films, if you take films also, Islam was projected as a great religion, and Hindu priests were ridiculed in most of the movies. So that is how our governments, they did not pay any attention for revival. So maybe that is one reason why they did not find any place in the universities also, in Western universities also. Whereas the Christian countries, the Buddhist countries, they played some role. Moreover, one difference between Hinduism and Buddhism is Buddhism talks about a godless religion, whereas when we say Hinduism, there is godless religion at a higher level. As when we say Brahman, it is almost like godless. This Brahman is something which is some universal consciousness, which is impersonal, which is akarta. It is a non-actor. It is not created. It is not even responsible for creation. And it is gender beyond gender. We call it it. We don't say he or she. So at a much higher level, it is genderless and it is something there. But then at a common level, Hinduism means you are following Vishnu, you are following Shiva, etc. So when a Westerner is getting converted to Hinduism, he faces the problem of which god I have to worship. So he is not aware of these two levels. Probably most of these people who want to get converted, they are not aware of these two levels. And many people, of course, I know that many people, they go to Vedanta Society of New York, Vedanta Society of Boston or California, where these Ramakrishna Mission monks and Chinmaya Mission monks, they are teaching Vedanta. And many Westerners, they're listening to Vedanta. They're listening to Vedanta. They're also writing about Vedanta. You mentioned Alan Watts. So people like that, there are many people even now. So that is that impression, that influence of Vedanta is very much there. And you might have seen the book American Veda by Philip Goldberg, where Philip Goldberg, he writes about the influence of Vedanta on the Western society. That is again a very elaborately he has written. It's a book which is you must have definitely seen.
Oh, yeah.
So like that, influence of Vedanta is there, but like you said, conversion is not happening. Maybe our people thought it is not needed. So there is no direction. Hinduism is something which is directionless. It is going on because of various people. You are interested in Hinduism. I am interested in Hinduism. It is going on because of people, very many people who are interested in spreading in whatever you know, whatever I know. Whatever you know, you want to tell 10 people. Whatever I know, I want to tell 10 people. So that is how it is surviving.
Correct. Yeah, even in the traditional Brahmin families these days, very few people are actually studying the core principles of most of them have become like business people. They became, what I want to say, business people in the sense they have a profession, they make money, they carry on. What I identify as Brahmin these days is they have changed in Brahmin community also, but most of them are vegetarians, and that's the only thing that differentiate them from others. Because we're all doctors, engineers, businessmen, we are lawyers, we work in IT companies, professors, but everybody is doing the same thing. The only difference is the Brahmins don't eat meat, some Brahmins, and the others don't. But the traditional Brahmin responsibilities, like preserving the Veda, preserving the wisdom, that is diminishing. So how do we? So if that is in the Brahmin community itself is shrinking, right? So and I heard that in Telangana it is about 1 to 2%. In Andhra it's maybe 2%. In North, we have more representation of it. So with Brahmins themselves, let us say they're 2% of the population. And among the 2%, only a fraction of them are actually studying and preserving it. So you mentioned in your book that become a Brahmin is one of the topics you mentioned in that. So see if you can, I know we are running.
I was just coming to that, become a Brahmin. Because luckily for us, people like Vivekananda, Vivekananda, he is not a Brahmin. So people like Vivekananda, during the British rule, they in fact, they had the perfect knowledge of English. And then they also studied Vedanta under people like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And then they went out. They went out and then spoke to the whole world. And in the line of Vivekananda, many other people they came, Swami Shivananda, and then Swami, Chenmayananda, then other people like Swami Dayananda, various other people they came, and then they established their own, line of monks. And then many people who are not Brahmins, they are now studying Vedanta. They are studying philosophy. There are many people in America, non-Brahmins, studying Vedanta. In India also, there are many people who are studying Vedanta, non-Brahmins. So I feel that those who are studying Vedanta, those who are knowing about Hinduism, they are now the custodians of Hinduism, I should say. And we should say that they actually Brahmins. Whoever studies Vedanta is a Brahmin, we should say. So
What about Vedas?
somebody
What about the Vedas themselves? Because
Vedas themselves also in olden days, of course, Vedas were studied only by the Brahmins because Vedas they were said to they had some recitation, a process of recitation. They had their own swaras. They had to be recited. That recitation had to go on. For the last several thousand years, the same recitation has to be there,
they
same
have to have a
intonation and all
sattvic
that.
lifestyle, the food they eat,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
this.
yeah. Even now, there are many other people, non-Brahmins, who do have a sattvic lifestyle. And then the Swamijis again, they have to take, say, initiative here. Here, in fact, the Swamijis, traditional Swamijis may not take initiative, but the other non-Brahmin Swamijis of Ramakrishna Mission, Chenmaya Mission, in my book, I have written that they should take initiative and then they can convert more people into Brahmins. And then if we see the history of Brahmins also, we see I have mentioned that also in my book. There are many Swamijis who have written that Brahmins, it is not as though right from the beginning they were in such an insulated community. Many other people got converted in at various points in history. Many people got converted into Brahminism. Some king, he wanted some Brahmins. There were no Brahmins in a particular kingdom. So he picked up some people and then trained them and then he made some Brahmins. And then Lord Rama seems to have converted some people. Similarly, Parashurama seems to have converted some people as Brahmins. So like
Yeah.
that, many people, because when this Brahminism slowly and slowly it spread, in many places where there were no Brahmins, locally some people were picked up and some samskara was done and then they were converted as Brahmins. Even that can be done even now. So Ramakrishna Mission people, they can teach Sandhya Vandana, basic rituals to all other people. They can call them, the only thing is they have to do the samskara for this Upanayanam and do that Upanayanam. And that was done by Arya Samaj. Arya Samaj people, they did Upanayanam for people of all communities. Unfortunately, that did not spread because that Arya Samaj was so confined to Vedic, one portion of the Veda, it rejected all other religion. It rejected all gods, it rejected pujas and all those things. Had they included all that, had they included this religion also, probably Arya Samaj would have flourished. But they made the mistake of taking only the Vedic Samhita portion only and all other things they rejected. So that is how they are, even now they are in a very, very limited sector.
Yeah.
So that is the problem with Hinduism. All Swamijis have to take initiative and Brahmins have to be made like they
Yeah,
were made in
Brahmins have to
earlier
be
times, they have to
created
be
because
made.
what happens is when you are a born Brahmin, it becomes a
Mm.
privilege and becomes a almost you are put on a pedestal, and then that gives an opportunity for others to bash the Brahmins. If you have a pathway to create more Brahmins, then
Yeah, in
people
fact, I
will
advocated it.
inspire to
I
study to become, and
I advocated it. I advocated it because all our scriptures also say the same. All of you read Mahabharata, all the scriptures say the same. The people who study, he is a real one who realizes Brahman. He is a
so
Brahmana.
when
The
you
very
say
definition
such
of
things,
Brahmana.
how does your own people in your own circle, how do they feel when you say such things? I mean, when you go back to your own,
Yeah,
circle.
many educated people, they do like it. They do accept it. They do
Yeah.
accept it. In fact, Chenmaya Mission, some of the top people in the Chenmaya Mission, when I interacted with them, they said, yes, you have written so well and then you have written so correctly. Because my praise in this book is for those people only, for Ramakrishna Mission, Chenmaya Mission, who have taken this philosophy away from the corners of these pitams. Earlier, prior to that, all these shastras, whether it is Vedanta or any other shastra, they were there confined to the pitams only, and to some small section of people who preserved it. But then these people they studied and then they took it all over and then they made it open to everybody. And then that was a great advantage. It actually preserved the society, I should say, because had they not done it, many more people would have got converted to Christianity and Islam. If Vivekananda, people like Vivekananda, then Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, then Swami Shivananda, and all these people, if they were not there, many other educated Hindus, they would have got converted to other religions. And these people, because they took Vedanta, all people realized, yeah, we have got such a great heritage. We have got such a great intellectual heritage. And then that prevented, for example, when there was one Swamiji in Andhra, in a place called Chittur, Malayala Swami. He created about 150 disciples, all non-Brahmins only. That Malayala Swami was a non-Brahmin. He created 150, more than 150 non-Brahmins. Even now they are there. And then those people, they went around in various, say, communities. For one community, one Swamiji is from Vaishya community, another Swamiji is from some other community. So they preserved Hinduism in that way. They saw to it that their community did not get converted into Islam or Christianity. So because of these non-Brahmin Swamijis, a lot of preservation has been done. So we have to give them a lot of credit, particularly in that people who came in that Vivekananda order.
Yeah.
So that is what I
Swamiji
feel.
is good. Swamiji is great. Like you see Paripurnananda Swami and things like other people like that, from Dayananda Saraswati Ashram. So Swamiji is good, but I think that even Grihastha should be like you mentioned in the book. Don't want to keep repeating the same thing over again. So that is great. And then in the book you also mention about threat to nationalism. Are you okay? Keep going on for a few more minutes. I think these are all important topics. We'll cover for another 5 or 10 minutes and we can call it. So
Yeah,
you mentioned.
nationalism. Of course, nationalism has become a bad word now, particularly in Western society, because it seems Hitler also used the word nationalism, and then because he used the word nationalism, then people started identifying the word with, say, xenophobia, and then superiority and cultural superiority and
Nazi.
whatnot. So nationalism, if we take it as a neutral word, India and China, of course, their own civilization now is in tatters. But then India is one country where there is a living tradition for the last several thousand years. There is a living tradition. It is not as though it is something which is not there. For example, if you read Ramayana, which probably is about 4,000 or 5,000 years old, or at least some 3,000 years old, the procedure of marriage which is described in Valmiki Ramayana, exactly the same procedure is there even today. By Valmiki Ramayana, the marriage between Sita and Rama, marriage of Sita and Rama, the procedure which was described there, the same procedure is there even today.
All over
Mahabharata,
many parts of
all
India.
over the country, all over the country.
All over
And the
the country.
same rituals, the same mantras, they are there all over the country, whether it is Kerala or Kashmir, the same ritual, marriage ritual, the same mantras are there. Maybe some local variations, local customs are different, but then the Vedic mantras are the same. So all over the country, the basic Sandhya, basic rituals of all these three sections, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, all the rituals are one and the same. So like that, we had that cultural nationalism. And then we had, say, our people, our religious leaders. We have got various Puranas where we say that the body of, say, goddess Parvati, what is
Shaktipeeth.
this? Ashtadasha Shakti Pithal, we say. Ashtadasha, her body, when it was cut into pieces, there is a long story. There are 18 Shakti Pithas. There are 12 Jyotirlinga, where Shiva seems to have manifested. So like that, and if you have to go to Kashi, if you make a visit to Kashi, you should also visit Rameshwaram. And from Rameshwaram, you have to take the water and then mix it in Ganga there.
It goes all
Ganga
the way up,
water you have to.
isn't it?
Yeah, so all over the country, they had such a network. They had such a network of sacred places. And in that context, one lady, one Harvard professor, I think, Diana Eek, she has written a book, this India, a Sacred Geography. That book also I recommend to people. India, A Sacred Geography by Diana Eek. So she has written about how all these festivals, various festivals, all these things, they united the Hindu society. In spite of the non-action of our traditional Swamijis, there is so much of, there are so many religious rituals, etc. So many other established practices like this pilgrimages and whatnot. So all these things they united the society. So this sort of all these things they create nationalism. We had such a great, such a living tradition and living culture for the last so many centuries. In addition to this, we have a philosophy which has to be defended. This is the only true philosophy. In fact, there is no other religion where there is such a debate, discussion on every point. What is God? Can we know God, and what is our mode of perception? Are we able to see what are our instruments of perception? Can we see God in with these instruments of perception? Various things they questioned, and then all this philosophy is something which has to be preserved. And philosophy in other Western, for example, if you see Western philosophy, it never debated the question of God. It never discussed what is God, etc. Whereas in us, it discussed what is God. And in order to debate or investigate what is God, they started investigating one's own self. Who am I? If you see, we are investigating God. Then first of all, we have to see what are our tools. And my tools of investigation are my own mind and my senses. So how are they? How did they come into existence? So such sort of investigation, it goes on. So like this, there is no other philosophy anywhere in the world, and this philosophy has to be jolly well preserved. That is what I very vehemently wrote in my book.
Yeah. These are, I mean, the last 15, 20 minutes, we are talking about how to bring all these fragmented elements together by, by becoming a Brahmin, so on and so forth. But as you were speaking, it occurred to me that if a Swamiji tries to do something out of what they're doing right now, I think there is a
Yes.
risk that they may be incarcerated. I mean, we have seen Kanchi Swami, one of the Swamis who got into trouble. I don't know for doing good things he got into trouble or how he got into some trouble. I think there might be some fear for these Swamis that they
The
might.
Swamijis, they are also afraid. The Swamijis, they are also afraid that the secular governments, they act on them. But at present, they need not have any fear. At that time, the secular governments, they were they were over secular governments, and secular in the sense those who create vote banks and those who,
Please
pamper the
mention
minorities.
minority,
Those who pamper
minority
minorities, they call themselves secular. Whereas those who want to defend Hinduism, they are called communal. The Hindus are basically fighting a defensive war. It is a war where it is basically a war for self-preservation. It is not as though we are going to Jerusalem and or we are going to Saudi Arabia and then we are trying to propagate Hinduism. We are fighting a defensive battle. When the Abrahamic religions are acting on us, basically to preserve our civilization. But then the problem is that the other people, the people who pamper the minorities, they call themselves secular and put us in the defensive. So that is our basic problem.
it occurred to me that how a Swamiji can get into trouble by
Yes,
doing
yeah,
good for
they are also slightly afraid, and that is the reason why they don't want to say
another
anything. They want
important.
to be absolutely aloof from all these things.
Correct. Yeah, it seems like that. One thing I don't want to miss before we end, and I will let you complete with any other important things that you want to mention, is the role of Sanskrit. How cultural link Sanskrit was a cultural link language, and you even wrote a book on why even Purohita should learn some basic Sanskrit. I happened to read that book, and it was a wonderful book. I think everybody should read that Purohita Prapancham, that book you wrote, why even Brahmins, that too Purohits, should have some basic understanding of knowledge of Sanskrit. I would like you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the Purohit or priest, as we call in Hindu priest, he is the cutting edge level person. He is the person who is in touch with the people. You and I, who may be educated Brahmins, who might have studied Upanishads, who might have studied Gita, but then we are not in touch with the common man. except probably through media like this. Nowadays, thanks to our media, we are able to communicate with some people. But then the Purohita is the person who goes to the house of a person. For example, there is some rituals, there is some need in somebody's house, some boy is born, or somebody is building a house. So in those on those occasions, these people have to go and perform some ceremonies. So there, my advice to Purohits is that their role in integrating the whole Hindu society is great. In fact, they should not be very uppish, and then unfortunately, the Purohits they are still in the same old framework that we are very superior. Though the Purohit is such a poor person, in spite of his poverty and whatnot, the
Yeah.
Purohita still feels very superior. The Purohita, for example, he is going to the house of a millionaire to perform one as some ceremony or some function, but still he feels that he is superior. That spiritual superiority he still feels. So my appeal to all these Purohits has been to see see the reality, and then see that the whole society, Hindu society, is integrated. You also go to the house of a poor man and then talk to the people there and then tell some shloka, give some small mantra to them. You do this Hanuman mantra, you do this Rama mantra, and then they will never go out. Unfortunately, the Purohitas, they have to be educated. Unfortunately, they require a lot of orientation. They require a lot of guidance. So if we really do that, and that can be done at least by the Swamijis, and because there is no spiritual leadership in Hindu society, my appeal in my book is that the Vishwa Hindu Parishad has to take over the leadership. If somebody takes over the leadership, there is no challenger also. So my appeal in this book is that.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to continue, complete
Yeah,
in this?
my basic purpose in writing this book is basically to sensitize a lot many people about the presence of the presence of a civilizational war. And the civilizational war is not like a regular war which happens in a 1 year or 2 years or a period, decade or anything. It goes on imperceptibly for a long time. It is called protracted war. Mao called it protracted war, and then it goes on and ripens at a particular stage. Like Mao's revolution also, it goes on slowly and slowly. They capture one section after the other, the one section after the other. And at a particular point of time, that is the tipping point when it comes, and then the violence starts. My emphasis is to alert our people that there is a possibility of genocide if we sleep. There is a possibility of genocide of Brahmins first and genocide of all other people later. All other means not the entire Hindu population. Many people will get converted if at all that situation comes. But then my focus is you are losing a very great civilization. A very great civilization. It will be a great tragedy for humanity. A very great tragedy for humanity if we lose this great intellectual heritage called Vedanta. And then we will be allowing a genocide of people who preserved this over thousands of years. So that is my
Appeal.
main complaint in this book, main complaint and also emphasis in this book.
Wonderful. This book has opened up a lot of dimensions in my own consciousness about what is going on, because most of the time, people like me who are in different professions but study Vedanta, and they're just happy with Paramatma, Brahman, and this and that.
Yes.
But you actually look at the reality, and then you are shocked that all this is happening, and suddenly you are only a fraction of the population, and most of us have already migrated to various countries, and all that is left in India is just the people are busy with professions, and a lot of them converted, and they don't really know the beauty of our shastras, and everything is being slowly losing. So I think this book, we should make it more visible to a lot of people, make it more available to others, so we can maybe have another conversation at some point on maybe a selected topic within this particular book. And I look forward to more such conversations. Thank you, Aravinda Rao Garu, for spending so much time with me. Looking forward to
Thank you, Rajeev. Thank you, Rajeev, for giving so much of time, and then for liking my book and also for speaking in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.